Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's upload, we will be talking about a heat wave that will be occurring across the country. If you recall, I already made a couple of videos about a heat wave. That was the one that passed last week. They're about the same time frame, but this one's going to be worse. It's going to be hotter, it's going to be further up north, and that's basically it. It's going to be hotter and further up north. And that's why I wanted to make a video on it. There was also a little bit cool indications of possibly a more intense cooldown, possibly later on, so I'll talk about that briefly, but mainly focus on Heatwave. So if you guys would like to subscribe to this channel, I do all sorts of weather-related content, long-range forecasts. Soon I'll be releasing the fall outlook, probably within the next week or two, getting around that time of releasing those type of videos. And yeah, so consider doing so. And if you would like to like the video, that would also be great, but you don't have to. Perfectly fine if you don't want to. So let's get started with this. We're looking at the GFS model, Global Forecasting System. This is a really good model for the forecasting of the weather across the U.S. And it does sometimes tend to be a little bit irrational, if you will. Given a human trait to a model isn't really the best, but that's the best way to describe it. It's a bit irrational. It could jump from one scenario to the other very quickly without much thought. That's how models are. I mean, that's the weather. That literally describes the weather. Jumping from one event to another. Like one day you could have a heat wave, another day you could have a polar vortex. Like that's what it seems like. But so let's get to the temperature anomalies and let's get a look at this. So GFS model again. It shows based on this chart, the warm colors, the orange colors are above average. Here is the key of the varying degrees of above average. You can see the lighter the colors, it's not as above average. 1 to 3 degrees, and then it gets sort of darker colors. It gets pretty warm. Okay, and obviously this is also in Celsius, so 8 degrees is significant. It's not 8 degrees Fahrenheit. It's probably closer to around 15, 16 degrees Fahrenheit. So notice that we had this cooler air, and we could actually go back in time and show that. You could see we had cooler air across Michigan, Wisconsin, into eastern Canada, and this moves out, and really the warmer that was in the Pacific Northwest, you could see right there, moves into the central U.S. And you can see this, like I said, this is far up north, and it looks as of now that the southern U.S. will not even be the brunt of it, or may not even be above average. You can see that they're actually a little bit cooler, and there's just insane heat across the northern U.S., at least for this time of the year. You can see that some of these colors by northern Illinois, for example, right there, that would be 8 to 12 degrees above Celsius. That's reaching close to 20 degrees above Fahrenheit. So, and notice it stays for a while. While there's some cool air to the north, this eventually does start shifting a bit further to the south late week. But notice the west is also very warm. It seems like most of the United States is dominated by the warmth. And I wanted to make something clear here. Notice that there's a bit of an issue here. Okay, so the background is white, and if you were to look at the lightest orange colors, you can see that is a 1.5. It was 0.5 to 1.5 degrees above average. While this is the same but below average, you can see that is much more noticeable than these colors. That is because that's just the way it's oriented, or at least that is for my eyes. It seems as if wherever the blue is, it's a bit more noticeable, even if it's not at a greater degree. So yes, at this point, most of the country would be above average. And the few areas where it is below average, it's really insignificant, and it's not as significant as it seems to the eye. Because see, if you were to look at this map right off the bat, you'd say, oh, there's quite a bit of blue in here. But really, I mean, the only location is Florida. These are mainly thunderstorms, these little spotches, and then a little bit across the mountainous areas across California. It's mainly the heat that is dominating. It's only a few spotches of blue, and that's not really significant at all, even though it may look as if it's a little bit more pronounced. It's really not. And notice that around the weekend, it gets kind of a little bit, the heat wave, if you will, subsides. You can see that Saturday there's more blue. Now it's more even right now, even though it looks as if the blue's dominating. I would say it's more even. And then the heat returns Tuesday, Tuesday, and into Monday, Tuesday, and into Wednesday. You can see just quite a bit, but again, the cold is definitely building in the west and the north. And as soon as this moves away, which at this point you can see that is extremely above average. That is very warm, especially across Canada into this portion of the time frame, 216 hours out. This is next Wednesday. You can see very warm, but then we see that cool off. You can see it's pretty drastic, and that definitely is a more dominating cool pattern right there. But it doesn't stay for long, and you can see it starts breaking up, and more of the heat starts returning, or the above average temperatures. So that's a little bit interesting. These cool features have been kind of showing up on the GFS for past several model runs. They've been indicating towards a cool off around this time frame for the past several days. So this is definitely something we can't ignore. Again, a cool off during summer, it's not dangerous. It's not going to be cold. Really, you know, it's June, but it's really more important to look at the heat and be wary of that. But it's still, you know, noticeable, and I always want to inform you on the weather, whatever it may be. Let's look at the actual 2 meter temperature shaded. So this gives us the actual temperature, the temperature, not the feels like what the thermometer reads. Notice that this is Monday. You see quite a bit of heat across Nebraska, Kansas, and into the south. Nothing really abnormal across the northeast though, but definitely warm across the plains. It's definitely above average in 90s, upper 80s. And as I said, this moves into the further towards the east. Again, look. Tomorrow, very chilly for the northeast, but extremely warm for the central part of the country. In fact, a bit above average. And then Wednesday, things spread into the northeast. We see these few spotches of, well above average and into the 90s where it could get dangerous heat. And then things kind of take a turn for the worst, where we just see much of the country in prolonged, I guess, heat. And you know, this isn't dangerous, really. The dangerous heat will be in the south, west, where it's going to be 101 plus, 100 degrees plus into the triple digits. But, you know, the 80s and 90s are still to be cautioned with, as, you know, say, for example, if you have, if you have someone in your car and you leave a pet or a little child in a car and it's closed, no windows, you know, that could really heat up, even if it's an 80 or 70 degree day. That could be deadly. So definitely not good news. And the widespread of the kind of like the widespread of features of this heat will be kind of also concerning. You can see it's just across the whole United States, only across the southeast where it's colder because of a storm system. But you can see 80s, 90s widespread at this point. Then it starts cooling off. You can see towards the north we see more 60s and 70s, but the heat really buckles back, and you can see Tuesday just gets really hot, pushing towards the 90s across Illinois, Indiana, and this may be a bit even underestimated across some of these models. And look at the heat in Texas at this point, very above average, and the northeast just seeing widespread 90s at this point. So, you know, some heat is definitely on its way, and it's a little bit tough to pinpoint which days will be the hardest hit with the heat, as the GFS does tend to jump around, as I said at the beginning. But you can see Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut right there. Thursday, June 11th would be just absolutely smacked by the heat. And then notice into Texas we see upper 90s as well. So hot as well. But then look at that, and pleasant cool off. That's, you know, that's like the weather that you call pleasant, 60s, 70s, maybe even the lower 80s in the areas that had hundreds. That's definitely a relief. And you can see that continues for a while, and the heat really doesn't build up for quite a while, or until another heat wave comes up, obviously. The European is on similar agreements. If you were to look at, this is basically showing geopotential height, and wherever the brighter colors is, typically it's warmer. Wherever the cooler colors is, typically it's cooler. So let's just look at this. Again, I would show you the 2 meter temperature anomalies, but unfortunately this Tropical Tidbits, this website doesn't have 2 meter temperature anomalies for the European model. So I have to work with what I have. But notice that it shows some of this heat building early week, Monday and Tuesday, across the Midwest. But notice it's still cooler across the Northeast. But then, say Thursday, Friday kind of flattens out. It gets a little bit more cooler. The European definitely keeps it toned down. But notice then Sunday, Monday, and into Tuesday, we see a nice ridge across the central part of the country. And this really is going to build heat into Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, Indiana, Michigan. All those states are expected to see quite a bit of heat. And again, that continues, but gets a little bit flattened out, as we could see a pretty large storm system tracking across the northern U.S. right there, which might infiltrate a bit of chillier air across the northern tier of the U.S., which is why it gets more flattened. I would also like to show you the 6 to 10 day outlook, 7th through 11th of June, and you can see this is kind of like that next week time frame. Very, very hot and above average. Nigger, fuck you. And marked by the colors of the red by the Climate Prediction Center, you can see that it's really extremely above average. They have 80% confidence right there, that hot spot across eastern Nebraska and western Iowa, just very, very warm. And it cooler across the west, but generally most of the eastern country is above average. And then the precipitation is just all over the place. We see a bit above across the northwest, quite a bit of across the northwest and northern plains, and then below across the southwest, more of the southern central plains. Not really the southwest, but then you can see across into the northeast, we see below average, and back above average into the south. If we were to look at the 8 to 14 outlook, it's a little bit different of a story. You can see now that the cool air, they're showing more of the cool air starting to infiltrate across the northern U.S., and the confidence is definitely down, but it's still generally above average for much of the country. And now whether they will keep it this way or show more cold, we will have to see as the coming days show. Right now it looks generally to be more on the warmer side than the cooler side, and the heat seems to be on the rise. Also, if you're wondering what's the, since this is the 6 to 10 day outlook, it looks like this. What does it look from the 1 to 6 day outlook? Generally, much of the same. Above average for much of the central U.S. Maybe just a little bit lessened of the heat, maybe a bit lessened to the in terms of magnitude. But overall, much of the same thing. So a prolonged time frame of heat is on its way, and stay safe. This isn't the worst type of heat. Definitely there's been worse, but it's definitely still notable, and we have to talk about it. So thank you so much for watching. Consider liking the video, consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See y'all. Bye.